Hello, everyone. We are the Bias Bros, and this is our final photography presentation for our 30-day project, Life on My Side. So our thesis is that my side bias can be reduced by understanding issues on the basis of values and approaching such issues with a my side bias in mind. Beginning, what is my side bias and how can we reduce it? The first image is going to be a bunch of tweets that we found popping up along with audio recordings of us reading them. The purpose of this slide is to grab the viewer's attention with some of the examples of tweets we found interesting. Then we have our fun introduction that shows ourselves, our names, and roles in the film. The purpose of these photos and videos is to feature ourselves more in our 30-day project that is mostly based online and give a face to the story we are trying to tell. Next, we will use the following image as a way to define my side bias using the words of Keith Stanovich and how we can approach our 30-day project. The images are a cover of a book Stanovich wrote on my side bias, and then the quote on the other image will be accompanied by an animation that looks like Keith Stanovich is talking while also giving the basis for our thought process in this project. These serve to define my side bias by an accredited person. We will then begin familiarizing our audience with the first point of our thesis. My side bias can be reduced by understanding issues on the basis of values. We will provide the example of income inequality and the value judgment of assessing the middle poor or middle upper gap, showing a graph of wealth distribution to drive this point. My side bias in COVID, our 30-day project. What did we do? For our 30-day project, we went on Twitter to try and reduce our my side bias and improve our understanding on issues that later centered around the COVID-19 vaccine and pandemic. A lot of images we used were tweets we screenshotted that we found were influential or summarized our experience during the project. Some examples are shown on this slide. In this photo, it shows our results from the political compass quiz we took before starting our project, which shows where we stand on a political spectrum. The purpose of this picture is to show what content on Twitter we needed to expose ourselves to while conducting our 30-day experiment. We all ended up looking at content that aligned with the authoritarian right of the political spectrum. We also added a caption saying, "Surprise, none of us changed after the 30 days." We then rewind to the video of us introducing ourselves. However, we place our fake profiles over our faces to show that we have created our fake accounts and are diving into the world of Twitter and COVID chaos. In these images, we will have screen recordings of us typing #Scandemic or #Plandemic into Twitter and showing the various tweets that came up. This shows the beginning of how we critically broke down the impact of misinformation on Twitter and how it influences my side bias. We feature influential accounts that we followed, such as Dan Crenshaw and Candace Owens, which are individual accounts that post content we oppose, as well as accounts that are more news sites or organizations that align with our opposite beliefs. These images show the various accounts we follow and the sources we are receiving our information or opinions on the COVID vaccine. Finally, we show ourselves after the first couple of days of the project. Again, these images serve to give a more realistic and humanistic depiction of our project and feature ourselves more rather than just the tweets we looked at. The middle of our film, misinformation, fatigue, and nonstop scrolling. This part of the project opens with Michaela having a recording of herself doing research and scrolling through Twitter. We begin to talk about the difficulty of exposing ourselves to other people's opinions when they become hostile and use words like libtards to describe a group of people with common beliefs. However, these emotions are very privileged college student emotions, and we show a sarcastic joke of our experience by having Mr. Krabs play the world's smallest violin. We then show how the CDC changed the definition of a vaccine and have the old and new definitions animated to type out as we say them. The purpose of these images is to show how maybe the lack of knowledge and not understanding the language of science can lead to mistrust and doubt over the vaccine. And this is what a lot of our tweets and research shows. Another reason people are not getting vaccinated is that distrust amongst family members of healthcare workers is passed through families. This is a research article where we obtained that information and offers an explanation to why people are so fearful and distrusting of the vaccine. Last couple of days, reflections and conclusions. The last part of our documentary opens up with Yamini recording herself about the disinformation dozen, the lack of trust in society due to the fear of government controlling so-called personal freedoms, and why misinformation plays a huge role in creating a trap of my side bias. These images bring a personal aspect to the film by showing Yamini recording herself, as well as images that play along with what is being said and how people feel. Yamini then shows an organization she came across on Twitter called the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons, or AAPS. While looking at their logo, you think that they are a group of accredited physicians and surgeons, but digging deeper would prove anything otherwise. These physicians were given a platform in an anti-vax convention, speaking of how home remedies are much more effective than any type of vaccine. The purpose of these images is to show how misinformation and valid-looking organizations like the AAPS could influence an already vaccine-hesitant patient, and how anti-vax people use misinformation to dive deeper into my side bias. At the end of our video, we give our reflections on our experience through audio recordings. The purpose of these images is to represent how we feel and the conclusions we made from our experience, such as deleting Twitter immediately, and how, as a society, we can be more cognizant about where we get our information in order to be a more unified and understanding world and reduce our my side bias. Here's all of our images and works cited. Thank you for listening.